Good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning. I hope everybody has their coffee. I've had about 3 cups already this morning. Today we're going to be talking about behavioral coaching and conflict management. So some really heavy stuff. How many of you are people managers in this room? Good. Looks like a lot of you are here. Are you here for just the behavioral coaching piece or the conflict management piece or a little bit of both? Yeah, a little bit of both. They go hand in hand, right? Well, I am here to help you with that. My name is Nicole Basil, and I will be facilitating this course for you today. We have a few housekeeping rules, so we'll go over those first, and then we'll go over what the agenda is for the day, and we'll go from there. So the first rule is have fun, right? It's all about having fun. You're here because, I hope you're here because you want to open up the lines of communication with your direct reports, right? You want to have open, honest, genuine communication. And not only do you want it to be open, honest, and genuine, but you also want it to come from an organic place, right? I mean, how many times have you pulled someone up and asked for a coaching session, and either you really don't want to talk to that person, you're like, oh God, it's time for me to be with Nancy today. Or maybe Nancy's saying, oh my God, it's time for me to meet with Jim, right? So we're here today to try to talk about how to have conflict management, how to have behavioral coaching, how to have a source and a foundation where you're comfortable as well as your direct reports are comfortable coming to you, talking about what the obstacles are, what the concerns are, what the issues are, what the frustrations are, and you're able to digest that information and make sure you're giving the right information back to the people that directly report to you. So can someone tell me why that's so important? Good. It builds rapport, absolutely. Builds confidence, yep. Makes you a better leader, yes. All of those things are important, and that's why this course is so important. So it's important for you to have fun with it. Everybody likes to love where they work, right? Good. Make mistakes, then learn from them, right? Steve Jobs says it best when an interviewer asked him, how do you become a success? He said 1,000,000 failures. Right? That's important. So make mistakes, then just learn from them. It's how we learn. Participate so we can generate, right? It's very important for you to bring your experiences to the table. We'll do some role plays later just in case you don't have some of those experiences to choose from. But if you have experiences, you can change the name. You know, everything is confidential in this room. The goal is to really help you get through these real life experiences, right? So I have some role plays with some, you know, difficult and sometimes unwilling direct reports from a coaching perspective. But if you have some obstacles that you're overcoming, bring them to the table. Maybe we can solve them as a group. If you feel comfortable coming to me afterward, we can do that as well, or, you know, while we're breaking and things like that. I'll be more than happy to help out. Ask questions. Another way that we learn, right? No question is a silly question. So ask the question, we'll get the answers for you. And last but not least, I don't know if we mentioned this or not, it sounds like we may have, but have fun. We want to make sure that we do that. All right, so let's talk about the agenda. Today we're going to talk about 3 specific topics. One is the coaching process, right? Because with coaching, you have your willing participant who wants to do well, right? Easy coach sometimes. Sometimes a little needy. We can talk about that as well. And that's where we have directive coaching, right? You can tell somebody what to do and they're just going to go out and do it. Then we've got effective coaching. And effective coaching is for your vague participant, someone who sometimes wants to do well, doesn't know how to get there. And then your unwilling participant, where we have some obstacles. There may be some frustration there. Not a willingness to participate or follow the rules or things like that. So that'll be the first section. We'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about how to communicate in all of those different scenarios. Once we talk about that and we start getting into how to effectively deal with your willing, your vague, or your unwilling participant, what's the right language to use, right? What questions do you ask? Sometimes you shouldn't ask any questions at all, right? We'll have those conversations and see how things go. And then we'll have a follow-up session. We'll break for a little while. When you come back, we'll put you in groups and we'll start doing some role plays to see if we can test your knowledge of what you've learned so far. So before we get started, how about we do a little icebreaker? I know it sounds corny, but it helps me. What I like to do is I like to go around the room, tell me your name, what you do for a living, how many people report to you, what you hope to gain from this class, and if you could tell me your favorite app that you're using right now, that would be helpful because I got a new phone and I really like to know how that works. So we'll start with you. Perfect. So we've accomplished a lot today. I think that we've had an opportunity to have some really good discussions, meaty discussions, a lot of breakaways. I heard you guys talking. And when we came back, we had some really robust discussions. So I think that's great. I think it's important that we recap, though. Prior to recapping, I'm a big quotes person. Maybe you noticed that by now, spending the past 3 hours with me. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Benjamin Franklin. Does anyone know what that means? Yes, absolutely. Do the work, right? Do the homework, do the upfront work, do the leg work. Don't wing it. When it's important, you want to be prepared. People know when you're not prepared, right? Your agents know when you're not prepared. Your clients know when you're not prepared. Your direct reports know when you're not prepared to sit with them and discuss their performance. So it's important to be prepared for those conversations. So let's recap what we learned today. We talked about the coaching process, and we talked about coaching for willing participants, right? So when you have agents that are willing, we use directive coaching. And when we use directive coaching, it's just like in sports, right? You watch the tapes, you look at them, you advise them on what you're seeing, you ask them questions, you don't assume you know why the jump shot isn't working. Maybe you should have those conversations and come up with a plan together. So you have knowledge, right? A coach knows the instruction to give. And the reason why a coach knows the instruction to give is because a coach researches, a coach audits, and a coach analyzes. And your direct reports depend on you for that information to feed back to them in a way that they understand that in order for them to do the best job that they can possibly do. And that's the easiest thing in the world you can do, is just be prepared to have the conversation with a willing participant. I mean, you're winning already. They're willing. They're willing and able. They're anxious. Coach, what is it that you have for me, right? Communication. A coach can explain instructions in a manner that can be understood. And the only way you can do that is with facts, with impacts, and with solutions. So the fact is that, John, you're doing a great job. We're struggling a little bit on dealing with frustrated customers, but you know what? If you're able to overcome that with the plan that we've come up with today, it could make for a better experience for the customer, increase your scores for your monitors and reviews. And the solution to that is going to be to fix the problem altogether. Are you with me on that, John, right? So we want to make sure that we're gaining that understanding as well. Show a genuine interest. That's extremely important, because I'll tell you what, a high performer knows when they're receiving true interest instead of just instructions on what to do, right? Don't be a robot. Don't just throw numbers out at a person. People are people. They want to have that organic interaction back and forth. And convert, because a performer is able to implement feedback and deliver the desired result, which is extremely important, right? So preparation is key for a willing participant. We also talked about vague and unwilling performers. In that case, we have to perform a SMART goal. Can someone tell me what a SMART goal is? What is the acronym for SMART goal? Yes, you're absolutely correct. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and what's the time frame, right? So we put that all together. We put a SMART goal together for your vague and unwilling customer. We paint the picture, if you will, right? We gain buy-in for those situations. We do a pulse check. How are you feeling? You know, it doesn't always have to necessarily be about the performance. How are you today? Where's that human interaction? That's important, right? You just don't want to start spitting numbers or data at people. You should have a genuine interest in making a connection with the people that report to you. Have a recap of the last meeting that you had. And it's not up to you to do all the talking, right? You're not the reporter here. You're just the observer of the information. It's a spot check. You're inspecting what you're expecting. All right, so what did we talk about last week? That's great, that's great. What did we say we were going to do to help you with that? Awesome. Have you tried that? Right? Is it working for you? How's it going? Oh, where are you stumbling? Those types of conversations. Make them as engaged in that as you are, right? So inspect what it is that you expect. And again, you want the buy-in, so that's important. The next thing that we talked about was communication, right? How do you have those tough conversations, those uneasy conversations with your direct reports? And that's important too, right? You have to overcome the objections. Have the courage to address the behavior when it happens. That's important. You're observing something, and sometimes people need that attention. Maybe it was important to them, not that they're acting out, but maybe it's important that you noticed that they were having an off day today. You just didn't shrug it off because you didn't care and you didn't have time. Maybe it's important to say, hey Nancy, you have a few minutes, I noticed you're not yourself today, right? It doesn't always have to be about the metrics. It doesn't always have to be about performance. It's also about rapport building. It's important. It's important in any relationship. And if you have that open line of communication, then accountability shouldn't be an issue, right? Invite the person to examine the behavior and the impact it has on themselves and others, right? You're usually, the team leader. When you're down, everyone can feel it. You want to talk about it? Is there anything that we can do? Sometimes those conversations help. If they don't want to talk about it, that's great too. But I bet you they walk away from that saying, hey, they weren't that busy that they didn't notice how important things are to me and what's going on with me, whether it's professionally and or otherwise, right? And when we talk about the sticky subject of the unwilling participant, when you have to talk about managing them up or out, it's a team effort, right? That's when you have to not only be able to communicate down, but also communicate help to bring in the up to communicate and get the resources that you need, right? Your department manager, your director, associate relations, all of those groups will be able to help you. So today I think that we've got you equipped with the tools that you need to really get started on building those great relationships with your participants. Any questions before we start talking about the role plays? Perfect. So we're going to wrap up for the day. I had a blast with you guys. I just want to leave you with one thing. I've left you with enough tools for you to be successful with your communication, with your direct reports. If you put these extra tools in your toolbox, I think you'll be extremely successful. I challenge you with the 80% rule though. So I want to talk about standard operating procedures. We talked about being prepared. And I think to be successful, you're going to have to be prepared with as many tools in your toolbox that you can actually use. When we talk about standard operating procedures, the first thing I think about is McDonald's, right? You go to McDonald's, you know what the number 1 is. You know what the number 5 is. You just know because anywhere that you go in these United States and otherwise, a number 1's a number 1 and a number 5 is a number 5. The reason that is the 80% rule. McDonald's runs off of a standard operating procedures. You drop the fries down, you hit the button, they stay down there in the grease for a certain amount of time, it pops up and voila, success every single time, right? So I'd like you to use that 80% rule because 80% of stores that have standard operating procedures are successful. 80% of mom and pop shops that just wing it and don't have standard operating procedures usually fail within the first 2 years of business. So remember the 80% rule, give 100% and you'll have success. I appreciate your time. You guys have a great day.